Okay. Well, I'm going to go ahead and start here. Uh, I'm joined by Douglas and Chris, our two partners in Brazil that helped us put this together. I just want to make sure they can give a little wave. You can see me, you can hear me. Perfect. Okay. So we're just a small group, which is wonderful. Lots of people have written to say they can't join tonight, but what we're doing is we are recording it so that we can send it out as a recording later. So if you do have to cut out early, or if you want to watch this again, or you forgot something, this will be emailed out to you later. So don't worry about that. For the chat, I'd welcome you throughout the talk to write some questions that you might have as we're going. What we're going to do is I'll introduce Douglas, and then he'll be talking about the Pantanal, the region, what you visit on our tour. I'll be speaking a little bit about the experience I just had. I was very fortunate enough to go down this September with our first group, and it was fantastic. And so I'll be giving a little talk afterwards, very short. And then after that, we'll go through all the questions that you might have. So again, feel free to write in the chat group there. What I'm also going to put in the chat is the link to our website specifically for the Pantanal if you want to check that out. Later, I'll put in the contact information as well. So without further ado, we're really excited at CNH Tours to have some new destinations, but we would only offer something to our guests if we had true local experts helping us and on our team. So that after a long search, believe me, it was more than a year. We were lucky enough to find them. And so Douglas is here this evening joining us to chat about IGUAÇU and the Pantanal. And without further ado, I will pass it over to Douglas to go ahead and start. And thank you again.
Thank you, Kelsey. Good night for everybody. As Kelsey mentioned, I'm Douglas, and I work here in Brazil for CNH, to organize CNH groups in Pantanal. So I will try to share with you a little bit about this biome that is located in Brazil, Bolivia, and Paraguay. I will share my screen by now. So just 1 minute, because I need to configure this part to be full screen. Just 1 second. Done. So now I hope you're seeing my full screen. Well, Pantanal is a biome in Brazil. Is the most preserved one because it's how it's like the geographical situation, because it's a place with farms, not all protected areas, but has been very preserved along the years. But it's also an ecosystem, a biome that is being threatened by the climate change because of the water levels. So Pantanal is the largest wetland on the planet. It's just for you to have an idea how big it is. It's 10 times bigger than Kruger National Park in terms of size, but it's not all the area that is a national park. The biome itself is protected, but most of it is private land, but that must be protected. Okay, we have only 4.68% in conservation units inside of Pantanal. All the rest is private land, but has specific rules because the biome is so important for the country. Basically, we have two main rivers, Cuiaba and Paraguay rivers. These two rivers are during the rainy season, these two river floods. And then because the area of Pantanal is surrounded by mountains, so during the wet season, that it's from late October, mid to late October to March usually. This year was up to April. So it's raining. This water are coming out of the river basin, and then floods everything because it's very flat. Just small parts of Pantanal gets out of the water is the areas that we call cordilleras. It's where usually the wildlife stays, and then the water comes back to the river basin again on the dry season. So we have a flooded season one season that is being flooded, and one season that is being drained, and then we have the dry season. So the end of the beginning of the end, sorry, the end of the drainage season and the beginning of flood season, also the dry season are the three periods that is good, usually from May to mid-October. Okay. Um, Pantanal is a World Heritage Site, was declared by UNESCO as a biosphere reserve. So it's very, as I said, it's flooded area. It's a convergence of our savanna, which is called Cerrado, the Chaco from Paraguay and Bolivia, and the Amazon. So the biodiversity there is really rich because of these three ecosystems that are around it. Okay. And it is the home of the third largest cat in the world, which is the jaguar. Okay. Uh, um, Tourism is really important in the area because in the past years, until 25, 30 years ago, ranches, so cattle ranches, was the main economic income of the area. Nowadays, tourism is getting bigger and bigger, so it's very, very important to protect the area. So if you come to Brazil and you visit Pantanal, you are only doing that, you are protecting the Pantanal and its ecosystem and biodiversity. Another map here to show a little bit in terms of like more localized where it is. So we have Cuiabá, one of the airports in the north, Campo Grande, another airport in the south, and Corumbá, which is an airport. Also now we have no flights going there, but it's on the border with Bolivia. So the Pantanal is everything here in the middle of these three cities, a little bit in Bolivia, a little bit in Paraguay as well. As you can see here, there is no roads, mainly rivers, tributaries of the two main rivers, Cuiaba and Paraguay, and all around here, not all, but some of these areas around where we have mountains from where the water comes from during the rainy season. Um, this is one of the range of mountains that is the border with Bolivia. On When we navigate the cruise, we pass by this area, and it's really unique because it's the closest mountain to the Pantanal, and only in this region, this area, we can see the mountains close to the the wetlands. So in the other areas, the mountains are a little bit further away. As I said, rainy season from November to March, and dry season from May to October. Pantanal is very special. So this movement of water, so imagine that this water are coming out of the river basin, come back to the river basin. All this movement and make sediments, make organic sediments from the leaves and from the trees. And it's like it creates a very rich chain of food. And because of that, we have insects, reptiles, birds, and mammals. So this biodiversity is very rich in this area. So birds is like so amazing to see birds, even for non-birders, because the birds there usually are very big, colorful, and in sometimes you can see like hundreds of one specific kind of bird, sometimes even thousands of one kind of bird. Fishes that we don't see quite often because only if we are like doing snorkeling in one part of the trip we can do that. But fish is very important, especially for the food chain also. Reptiles are also very common, and some of them very easy to see. Just to have an idea, the caimans in Pantanal were in threat in the 80s. Now they are abundant in the area. So since the 80s, preservation of the wildlife has been taken serious by the government. So that's why we have more jaguars, we have more capybaras, even more caimans, jaguars, and all the other kinds of birds. Oh, sorry. And we have some mammals as well. Of course, we don't have the big five of Africa and not even the size of animals as in Africa, but we have quite a lot of mammals like the giant otters, the capybaras, the ocelots, the giant anteaters, the tapirs, some monkeys, armadillos, and the queen of Pantanal, which is the jaguar. And just out of curiosity, the jaguars in Pantanal tend to be bigger than the jaguars in Amazon, because to hunt in Pantanal, they need to be stronger. So the natural selection for them make them to get bigger and bigger, comparing to the Amazon, for example. Well, then how do we visit Pantanal? Okay, as I said, water is a very important asset for Pantanal, is a very important component in Pantanal. So one of the ways to visit Pantanal is by boat, and that's what we do in the CNH tours. Part of the trip is made by boat, and part of the trip is made on lodges. So what we do in the Pantanal in terms of cruise, we start our cruise in Coromba. We navigate all the river, the Paraguay River to the north. When we get to this area here, which is the Serra do Amolar, the mountain range that I showed you the picture, we take up the Cuiabá River and then we get to Porto Jofre. Okay, so that's the route that we do with CNH tours. Okay, on the cruise. Starting Corumbá. Corumbá is a very historical town. It has a memorial to it's from an NGO called Instituto Homem Pantaneiro that study and protects the culture of Pantanal, because Pantanal has been uh, people have been living in Pantanal for ages, and they have their own culture that is mixture with the indigenous culture from the local area. So this NGO is trying to preserve their culture, and then we start our trip visiting these crews. So lots of musicians, we do some performances for the groups, and then it's a historical city, and it was really important also in the war with Paraguay and also in the Second World War, because from here we were exporting lots of meat to the Europe during the Second World War. So this is the starting point of the trip. This is like the pier or the malecon or the harbor from Corumbá. Along the river, as I told you, we can do, that's the only place where we can do snorkeling in Pantanal, because this water comes from east to west along the fields. It's been filtered by the fields. And when it gets to close to Paraguay River, they are very clear. And then in this place, we can stop our small boat, because every day we leave on small skiffs or small speedboats to visit some areas to search for wildlife, like the safaris in Africa by boat, or maybe like the safaris in Botswana by boat as well. So we're navigating the main boat, and then we leave on smaller boats, and then we stop on these areas to do some snorkeling. So it's, as you can see here, very clear waters. We also can visit some locals where we have like some art crafts, mainly made by women's. We pass by Amolar mountain range, as I mentioned to you, that the river comes from the north. We have some species of flora from Amazon as well, because this river comes from the Amazon. And also we can see the mountains of Amolar. This, for example, is one of the species from the Amazon with the giant lily pond. From in these areas where we can do some hikes, that is not so common to do in most of the trips in Pantanal. Most of the trips are done by boat or by truck or by horseback riding. In here we can do a walk during the cruise. So and then we can see some different wildlife. If we're lucky, we can see a specific endemic titi monkey that are endemic from this area. And also, if we have a group that is like can walk more, we can even hike some mountains where we can see Pantanal from a higher point of view, so we can see how plan it is, how vast, and some lagoons along. For example, these are lagoons that are formed during the wet season, and when it's dry season, we can see them getting smaller and smaller. So this is the Amolar mountain range. Every day on the cruise, we live on speedboats. Sometimes can be cold. The same day can be like 10 degrees Celsius in the morning, and in the middle of the day, we can have 35 degrees Celsius. So when we have a list of equipment suggested, we ask for like a jumper or a windbreaker, and also sunscreen, hats, and light clothes, because we need to be like just taking off some clothes along the days, for example. Well, the king of the highlight of the trip, Pantanal is not only the jaguar, but the highlight of the trip for sure is the jaguars that can be seen along the cruise. Actually, we can see jaguars anywhere in Pantanal, but in some areas they are more used to the presence of humans. So in some areas they are easier to see, other areas they are not so easy to see. But we try to look for them, not only for them, every day when we are doing our outings during the cruise, and also during our safaris or during our horseback riding when we are staying in the lodges. As you can see, these pictures, it's not so difficult to get close to them. It's a safe distance, of course, but it's easy to see them, and it's easy to see them hunting. It's easy to see them mating or with cubs or crossing the river or fighting for a female. So they are very active usually on some areas, oh, especially where they are used to see to get contact with humans. Um, this is our cruise. It's not a luxury boat, but it's a very comfortable boat, up to 14 people maximum. Usually in the CNH tours, it's only 12, and the food is great. The boat is only for our group, so it's a very good. It's a private experience with one specific guide only for the group. Then before and after, we include 2 days on a lodge-based option because we understand that some of the wildlife is not easy to see during the cruise, specifically tapirs, anteaters, armadillos, ocelots, so and some kind of birds. So that's why we believe that a more complete experience in Pantanal is combining lodge and cruise. So the lodges are located in the north and in the south. So before and after the cruise, we have 2 days in the lodges. This is one of the lodges, Aguapé. It's both lodges. No, this lodge used to be a farm, a ranch, so a cattle ranch, and they still have cattle there. So they were transformed like along the years to be a lodge. So your very typical place is again not luxury place, but very comfortable and very original in terms of how it was built up for the since it was a ranch. And Aymara Lodge is a different one in the middle of the trees, as you can see in the top left picture. This was built. It's not a ranch for. It's there is no cattle here, and it's a lodge that was built for tourism and used only for tourism. Okay. The tours that we do in this lodge based can be walking, can be horseback riding, or on a jeep on a four-wheel drive safari. Um, if it depends on the level of the water, specifically in actually in sorry in Aguapé, there is options also to do boat trips. Usually we prefer not because you're gonna stay in the river for 5 nights. In Aymara Lodge, we have an option to do a paddle if we have water in this Corisho. Corisho is a river that connects two, a temporary river that connects other two. So in the beginning of the dry season, it's possible to do this option, and the end not really. Um, I mean, we connect. I mean, all the trips that we do in Pantanal, we connect you, and also we help 2 different NGOs. This one is Jaguar Identification Project. Is a project that identify the jaguars in one area of Pantanal to monitor, to see if they are healthy enough, to see if they are reproducing every year. So they have already 404 catalog different jaguars with names for it. And we help them, and they do a speech for us. Also, we help these Brigada Alto Pantanal. We don't have a contact with them, but they are based in Amolar mountain range, and they are very important to monitor the fires in Pantanal. So they have several cameras in several strategic parts of Pantanal, and when we visit um, the Instituto Homem Pantaneiro, the memorial that I mentioned to you, in the beginning of the trip in Corumbá. We can see this headquarters where they have several screens, and once they see now with artificial intelligence, there is a smoke or some heat, they can just send someone to stop the fire from the beginning. That's the only way to stop the fire during the dry season. After 24 hours, it's just controlling. We cannot stop anymore. So this is a very important also NGO that we help with our tours. Um, this is going to be told by Kelsey after. We start strategically in São Paulo, the trip. So São Paulo is a big city. It's a city where most of the flights arrive. It's a cosmopolitan city. So lots of like art on the street, nice restaurants, nice museums. And because of the flight connections, because of luggage, everything, we prefer to have one night in São Paulo just to give this buffer for everyone to arrive and to be possible to continue the trip. And part of the trip also is Iguaçu, in the border with Argentina. And then it's a big waterfall. We say in Brazil that the biggest waterfalls, the most of the waterfalls are in the Argentinian side, but it's better to see them from Brazilian side. This is just a joke we do with the Argentinians because we have good competition with them. But both sides is nice. From Brazilian side, we can see a bunch of them. In the Argentinian side, you can walk very close to them. So two different experiences. And we stay in the Brazilian side inside the national park. Okay. So this is where it's located in the border with, we have a triple frontier here, Brazil, Paraguay, and Argentina. Okay. This is an aerial view from the falls. And this is the hotel where we stay with the group. Sorry, not here, it's here. Yeah, it's around here. That's a Belmont hotel called Belmont Cataratas. From Belmont Cataratas, we are close to the park, inside the park. I think that's it. And now you are with Kelsey. If you have any questions, I'm more than welcome to answer you. Okay, thanks a lot.
Thanks so much, Douglas. Alrighty, so yeah, just a reminder, if you want to write any questions in the chat, please feel free, go ahead. We're also a very small group, so we're gonna welcome you to just ask directly afterwards too. So what I'm going to start doing is a very informal version of what Douglas just did. He had the beautiful professional photos and describing each region. So what I'd like to do is just to go through to give you an idea of what the experience was for our CNH Tours guests this last trip. So don't expect any super stellar photos. They're all mostly just my phone photos, but generally I want to just give you an idea and hopefully preemptively answer some questions along the way. So here we go. I'm going to share my screen now. Back to this. There we go. Alrighty. So, like Douglas was saying, we're visiting both the Iguazu Falls and Brazil's Pantanal. So first, one of the highlights for us is just having a small group. So this year we went with 11, and then you'll see Chris in front there. She and I were the tour leaders for this particular departure. Um, the maximum number is 12. Usually it's a bit less if there are solo guests. So there's always lots of room on either the truck that you see on the right or the typical boats that we go out while we're on board the Akaya. So lots of a small group size, so lots of room as well to get a good view of the jaguar. So again, this is just from my camera. You can see our group in front, and the jaguar is resting on that tree branch to the left. So, like I said, lots of time and space for photos, no matter the type of lens you might have. There is only one semi-professional, actually, he's professional photographer on this trip. So you'll see lots of our guests there with just binoculars as well, lots of space and time to see. And also, because we're such a small group, it's quite an intimate experience, and you get lots of time with the guides as well. So lots of time to ask questions. We do start early on these tours, so a word of warning, it's worth it, I promise, but most mornings we'll be having breakfast at around 5 a.m. And I promise for a good reason. So you'll get to see almost every single sunrise, beautiful all the time. The wildlife tends to also be out quite early as well. So here's an early morning view of a capybara. And then one morning, we were very fortunate enough to have this experience. So hopefully you can see the video here. What you see in the distance is the giant anteater. So one of the, they call the big five of the Pantanal. So this is at sunrise. Very lucky experience. So we're very fortunate to have seen it. There is the sunrise and there's all of our group. So we're with the local guides who made sure it was okay for us to get onto the ground and walk around, giving it plenty of space, of course. And there it is off in the distance. So it just kind of it mosey on by. It was lovely and just such a nice experience. But this happened before 6:30 a.m. So like I said, good reason to get up early, I promise. So, of course, as Douglas mentioned, the Iguazu Falls is a big part of our trip. It's absolutely phenomenal. We stay on the Brazilian side, as he mentioned. This is our group from the main lookout point. You're looking at Argentina, but we're on the Brazil side right there. And with the incredible falls comes our incredible accommodation. So he briefly jumped over it, but the Belmond is in the park itself, and it's the only hotel in the park. It's known as the Pink Hotel. Yes, and for those with an eagle eye, you might spot on the right. There is a Volkswagen van, and it is the same color pink as the hotel. So this is around sunset. A lovely, lovely place. By far the nicest hotel I've ever stayed in. And we think that, there's got to be a little bit of extra comforts on this trip. Most of the places we're staying in are quite modest. This is not at all. Um, so you'll have some lovely rooms, beautifully designed. And what I wanted to point out, based on our own experience this year, there is a courtyard area at the hotel. And I'd strongly recommend either looking at the hotel schedule or just meandering by after dinner. They always have events going on in the middle. This evening, those are our two guests sitting there. So they had tango dancers and live musicians as well. And it was just lovely. So certainly worth doing, but it's just, one of the perks to staying there. The other perk I'll show you, this is what the main viewpoint looks like during the day. So like I said, the park is right where the hotel is located. The park opens, I believe it's around 8 a.m. People start coming in. They're in tour groups, they're on buses. So it's quite busy. This was at about 8 a.m. the day before the rest of our group arrived. So you can see lots of people bustling to try to get a good photo, get a clear shot. For our guests, when we're there, this is what we get. We get plenty of room, beautiful sunsets, a chance to just chat, take in the falls each evening. Because we are at that hotel, we are the only ones allowed to be in this area after the park is closed. So early morning into the evening, it's a perfect spot to go and enjoy the sunset and so tranquil and calm. And there are benches around where you can sit and take in the moment. Just really nice spot. So, as Douglas mentioned, we also can experience the falls from the Argentinian side. So, all I wanted to highlight here is just about walking surfaces. So, some of our guests this year were having a bit of trouble just generally with concrete. So, most of the walk on the Argentinian side is on these metal grates. It is a full day, walking most of the day, lots of breaks. We stop for lunch, of course. If ever you need to miss part of it, there are certain parts where we loop around, so you're welcome to do that. But again, just to give you an idea of the pathways, the types of places where we're walking throughout the day, and of course, getting a completely different view and angle as well. So this being the main thing, you're at some points right on top of the falls. I didn't want to include too many photos here because it's just so spectacular and breathtaking. It needs to be seen in person, and I don't want to ruin the surprise. So, like Douglas mentioned, we are doing some of the tour based in lodges. So, one of the ones we went to and we have included for our tours next year and in 2027 is Posada Aguapé. This is the one that has been in the family for about 150 years, I believe, a cattle ranch. And so, when we're there, this is, of course, one of the highlights going horseback riding. It's about an hour-long tour and it's around the land. As I learned while I was there, most of the Pantanal is privately owned. I know Douglas mentioned that too. So when you're going around different farmlands. This is our usual mode of transport while we're there. It's very much truck based. And so there's our lovely driver. This is from the truck. We're seeing a huge group of capybaras come towards us. As you can tell by the shadows, this is early in the morning, and we got a little up close and personal visit too. So you can see, kind of get a sense. There's space. There's lots of close encounters from the truck. And of course, we're with our local guide. So here he is. He thought he had spotted some jaguar prints in the sand. It's very dry in this area, as you can imagine, called the Cerrado, as Douglas mentioned. And so he's out there looking for the jaguar prints to see if we could potentially find one. Unfortunately, we didn't in this particular area, but it's certainly nice to have someone there to check things out just in case. This is, again, early morning. We're doing our truck safari. While we didn't see jaguars, we did have a capybara crossing. So this is the main road out of the lodge area. And they were, yeah, just crossing the street, ironically crossing right in front of a caution sign for capybara crossings. So I thought that was pretty spectacular. Again, you can see there the trucks are open, great for a nice breeze, but you do want to make sure you're covered. For us, it had gone from very chilly the week before we arrived to very hot. So I'd strongly recommend thin, long sleeves and pants, making sure you're always covered, and a good hat, just like our guest Eileen there in front. So, as Douglas also mentioned, we do part of the trip on board the ship. The reason being, it's great to have that as a home base to explore the wildlife around the river systems. You again get beautiful sunrises from the ship itself. We have breakfast usually before sunrise, and then we're disembarking right at sunrise. And this is our mode of transport for the majority of the time we're on board. So, like I said, you want to be fully covered to protect against the sun, also the wind in the morning. We go at quite a clip. We'll provide you with with glasses to protect you and protect your eyes when we're going at speed. But in terms of clothing, that's mostly what you want to keep in mind while we're out on the river. So, using that ship, the Akai it's called, as a home base, we get some nice close encounters. So, I wanted to share this one again. Every trip is different. This is in Porto Joffre. Those are our two guests to the right. And for, again, those eagle eyes, you can see to the left, there is something in the water. Hopefully my video works. Here we go. This is what was in the water. So right in front of us, and yes, there are other boats at this point because this is uh, this is Porto Joffre, oopsies. And so lots of jaguar sightings in this area, and they all speak to each other, so we know where they are. So here is, and as you can see, that's our professional photographer at the front there. And everyone got a great view because the jaguar went from one side of the river where people on the left side of that the little boat, our speedboat, got to see, and then those on the right got to see afterwards. All right. And of course, being on such small little speedboats, we get to reach quite extremely remote locations. So here's where we got to get off the ship and off the speedboat and visit the national park headquarters there. And the photo on the right is actually border control. There you might see there's a bird on top. That's the Bolivian side on the other side of that post. So this is in the middle of a giant lake that you get out to during one of those speedboat rides. Keep saying speedboat, but the little launches. In Galapagos, we'd call them pangas, but that's where you get out to on that particular day. Lots of lovely places, very remote, but we want you to be comfortable at all times. So we were trying different things for next year as well. But this year we got things like coffee on board. Our lovely guide brought that for us so that even in the most remote of locations on the little dinghy, the speedboat, we were able to have coffee. And in the evening, some of our guests got to indulge in some cocktails as well. So yes, like I said, we try to take care of you as best as possible. Here we go. And then, as Douglas mentioned, the Amalar Mountain, uh, beautiful, beautiful location. I just felt I keep getting goosebumps thinking back to it. So, for the day that we're there, you have two options for part of the day, a nice leisurely walk. Not very long in terms of distance, about 1.5 kilometers, and it's mainly to spot the titi monkeys, like you mentioned. The other option is a hike and you get beautiful views, but it is quite a hike. It's 5 kilometers, which for our American friends is about 3 miles. It's quite steep. It's on mostly rocks, like you can see on the right-hand side there. So you want to make sure you're capable of doing it. But if you are, certainly worth the views. Here's the group of us. There's Chris and I in the photo and our guests with a beautiful view behind. And there's our lovely park ranger who joined us as well, taking in the sights before we started climbing back down. So the second lodge, Aymara Lodge, which is in the northern part of the Pantanal, it's right off the road, the national park. I believe. Oh no, I've forgotten the road. Pantanero, the long road we take to get there. It's quite in the middle of nowhere and lovely. And so this is the turnoff for it. I just want to give you a general sense. It's got beautiful buffet. I would say out of all the places, my favorite for food. So I certainly got my fill when I was there. I ate way too much, but it was delicious, well worth it. While we were there, we got to do the morning paddle. As Douglas mentioned, this is dependent on the water levels, and so it's not always guaranteed. We did get to go not very far. We were mostly paddling through those water hyacinths. And at one point we did have to turn around because we simply couldn't get through, but it was lovely and at sunrise. We also got to sit behind a blind and ended up seeing a really fun group of coatis while we were there. I would mention that they offer a bunch of different activities. You don't know what's going to be possible until you're there. Even the lodge itself doesn't know what's going to be possible. At the end of the day, the jaguars rule the location, or rule the whole Pantanal, basically, and that also can be a deciding factor on what's offered. So, last but not least, here we are, our very last night out in the Pantanal. This was right on the road to the lodge to Aymara. This was a visiting jaguar. They hadn't had one in the region, as I understand, in the specific lodge location for a very long time. This one decided to check in. So this jaguar had checked in for a few nights, and this night we followed it along that main road. And as the one road to the lodge was coming up, it knew that's where it turns, and it turned right into the lodge area. And so this is along the road to the lodge. There's another van facing us, as you can see, with its headlights on, more guests in that van, but we're coming into the lodge and there it is. So I just wanted to provide a little bit of a very basic idea of what we saw. I didn't include too many wildlife photos because you'll see so many incredible things. And every trip is different, just like Galapagos. You never know what type of wildlife you're going to see, but I hope this gives you a good overview. And while I am not the expert, Douglas and Chris are by far the experts in Pantanal and Brazil in general. I'm always more than happy to talk about my personal experience too. So without further ado, thank you. I just want to leave this up for a second, but I'll put it into the chat. So you can always reach us at hello@cnhtours.com or cnhtours.com. And I put the link to our Pantanal specific page in the chat as well. Like I said, this is being recorded, but we also are going to send out an email afterwards. So if you simply want to reply to that, please go ahead. And with that, I've finished that part of it for myself. I'm just going to go back to the chat here and see
Here,
if
see,
there are
if
questions in
you
the chat.
open that up, you raise your hand.
Trans-Pantanera Road, that's what it is. Hi there. Hi, who do we have joining us here? I see Bruce in the title
And
there.
Pam, Bruce and Pam.
Sorry,
Bruce and Pam, nice to meet you. Perfect.
We just dropped the computer.
Oh no. Oh, okay. So, okay, do you have questions though?
Yeah, we do.
Oh, perfect. Okay, go right ahead.
Yeah, we've both been to the Iguazu Falls
Lovely. Okay.
and spent time on both sides.
Mhm.
And is it possible to do your Pantanal without Iguazu
So
at a
we
lower cost?
To be honest, we are looking into that possibility. Douglas, Chris, and I were just chatting about that when I was there in Sao Paulo. Most likely, if it is an option, it would be for 2027. That being said, because we're a small company, and we very much want to take care of our guests and customize anything that we can, what we could do is work with you to see how we could adjust it for you, whether it's 2027 and officially an option or not. Yeah, that's kind of what we're always happy to help with whenever we can. So yes, definitely, let's say I can't guarantee it, but we certainly can do what we can for you. Mhm.
I have another question, and that is,
Sure.
I might have missed it. You might have said that. How long is this trip?
Ooh, yep, good question. We didn't mention it because we are making little adjustments. And
Okay,
so,
roughly.
yep, so roughly we do it more in nights. So roughly 2 or 3 nights in Iguazu. And then we have 2 nights at each lodge and 5 nights on board. And then 1 night in Sao Paulo. So to be honest, would need to count that. So 2 in each lodge,
10
5 on
nights.
board. Yeah, and
10
then Sao
nights.
Paulo. 10 nights.
And then-
But like I
Okay,
said, part of the reason why we weren't giving specifics on order or
No,
number of nights
sorry, 10
necessarily.
nights, 10 nights, 10 nights without Iguazu and
Exactly.
13
Yep.
nights with
Yep.
Iguazu.
okay,
Exactly.
good. Just to have an idea. I didn't know we
Yeah,
were
of
talking
course.
about
Yep.
10
Great
10
question,
days.
Pam. Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
Go ahead.
I was just gonna write this down. How many, could you recap the breakdown of the 10 nights? It's
Mhm.
two nights in each of 2 lodges
Exactly. Yep.
and
And then and 5 nights on board the Akaya. And then
okay,
we have 1 night in Sao Paulo. And then
okay,
if you're not doing Iguazu, what we would still recommend is at least one buffer night. So perhaps starting and ending in Sao Paulo and just having that extra night at the front end. Like all of our trips, we want to make sure that it's as smooth as possible, as risk-free as possible. And so having that little bit of a buffer is always helpful.
Well, we probably combine it with something else because we've never been to Brazil except to go to the Iguazu Falls.
Oh,
So
fantastic. Well,
yeah,
certainly Chris and Douglas, that's partly why, part of the reason why we love them is they're such experts and they can help with all of that. So we had one
great.
guest this year. She was a solo traveler and she went to so many different places, both before and after our tour. We also had a couple from Wales that came in, I think about, was it 4 days early? And they went to de Janeiro. They did a bike tour around Rio because they're really big into biking. And so absolutely possible. And if you did want the extra help and expertise, we're more than happy to help with that as well.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Oh, my pleasure.
so another question about the snorkeling. Does the ship have fins, and what do you see
No
snorkeling in
fins,
there? It's not gonna
no
be
fins.
coral.
No, we just provide the masks and the snorkel. It's not necessary fins. It's a
Okay,
very smooth snorkeling, just for you to have an idea how is the life underwater. So we provide everything because it's not like nice to be carrying this equipment for just one
Right.
use in one day.
right.
Mhm.
So what do you see when you snorkel? Is it mainly fish?
I mean, mainly flora, so some plants, water plants, fish, almost for sure. And if we are lucky, we can see otters. If we can see caimans, we can see anaconda, but that's more difficult to see.
Get it, don't worry
But
about it.
that's the all possibilities that we can see. But mainly fish and water plants.
Okay,
Yeah, and the water plants, I mean, as a Canadian, I think of, oh, gross, dark seaweed and not appealing to me at all, to be perfectly honest. But there, what I was most surprised by were the colors of the flowers as well. And so, yes, water plants, it's far more than just green seaweed. There's one particular spot where it was just beautiful, beautiful wild water plants, water flowers as well. Mhm.
great. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Have you two been to Galapagos with us before, Bruce and Pam?
Yes,
Oh, you
yes.
did. Okay, okay. You must have been working, I believe, with my colleague Heather.
Oh, it was a long time ago.
Yeah.
Oh, it was.
It
Okay.
was 2005.
Oh, wow. Okay, so maybe before this new Galapagos travel, it was that all the way back with Barry, I guess?
Yes.
Oh,
That was
wonderful. Okay.
Barry and Mark was just taking over, I think.
Oh,
Just
lovely.
starting to, we worked with Mark and Barry, yeah. It was
Lovely.
a
Oh, I'm
long
so
time
glad.
ago. You
Okay.
know,
Well, we were shocked when we learned more about that or Galapagos travel because we're almost identical but Canadian. So we were a small team of 3. All we've lived in Galapagos, so a little bit different from them, but same sort of specialized tours and so yes, I feel like I think you'd see a lot of commonalities between the
uh-huh.
Galapagos travel you were with
We
and
loved it. We loved it. It was
great.
fabulous.
Oh, I'm so glad. Alrighty. And I'm gonna I don't see anything in the chat. I'm gonna assume there aren't any other questions from our other guests here. But Bruce and Pam, did you have any others? Because these are great so far. This is great
Well, I
extra
guess for me, I
info to
guess since you're coming off of the rainy season, um, what are the advantages of an early date versus a later date? I mean, obviously you're moving from really wet to less wet, but do the animals change? I mean, I know a lot of people have been to the Pantanal, and I don't know if anybody who's seen jaguars except when they come down to the water to drink. I've never, the fact that you get them not that often that you're going to get them crossing the road, but
Okay,
I'm curious about the weather and how that affects the animal life.
okay. Can I answer,
Yeah,
Kelsey?
of course. I was going to say that's a great question. And yep, I know the very basic version. Douglas has all the
Okay.
details.
Usually December, January, and February are months that we don't recommend at all people going to Pantanal because it's too rainy, more mosquitoes. So it's and too much water. So it's hard to see wildlife in general because they are so much spread. Okay. That said, if you think about only wildlife, as drier is better to see. So you're totally correct because the wildlife must come to drink water. Okay. So, but the beginning of the dry season has some benefits as well. To be honest, I prefer May and June than August and September and October. And why is that? May and June usually are greener than the end of the dry season. So in terms of like the more humid, more greener, the level of water is not so low. So we still have, I mean, the chances to see jaguar or any kind of wildlife from May to October is the same. The matter is maybe in May, I mean, then we have an average of like in 5 days between 6 to 7 different individuals. And then in September, in terms of jaguars, and then in September, it will be 10 to 11, you know. But so, but what can happen in September, for example? This year was amazing because it was very green because the rains were very strong until the beginning, really the beginning of May. That is unusual. So we have a green season, but sometimes in September, for example, which is the favorite time for people to come because they think it's better because it's drier, the animals can come to drink water. If we have a really dry season, we can have fires, for example, and then we have
Yeah.
fog, you know. So that's the point. And July, for example, is not for me. I mean, it's a good time to come. It's a really good time to come. The places where we go is not a. It's. I mean, actually, July you can combine both seasons. Okay, so usually it's a time of the year that is harder to have to get space. But in case we have a block booking is fine because we have the everything blocked and the areas where we visit it's totally private, so we don't have busy places. So that's the difference. We have pro and cons on every season, you know. So
Mhm.
May, for me, I prefer May and June because I prefer green season when it's greener.
Mhm. Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. That was a great answer. And I would just reiterate, I wasn't expecting it. I know Chris especially had mentioned how dry it was going to be. And so in our suggested packing list, we do suggest some throat lozenges or eye drops if you have dry eyes, because it is quite dry. So I can understand, Douglas, even though I've never been there in May, or sorry, in June, I can definitely see that because in September it was dry. It was very dry, and at certain parts you
And
think,
this year
how
was not that dry.
really? Oh, geez. Because certain parts I thought, how do animals survive here? But not only that, how are they so abundant? I mean, to be honest, I was shocked just in general at how much wildlife we saw. I'm a bit spoiled in Galapagos, there's so much and they just walk right in front of you and look at you.
Right.
What are you doing here? Yeah. So it was a little bit, a little worried. I didn't want to have my hopes too high, but oh my goodness, it did blow my mind, especially because it was so dry. So yes, that certainly, I've reiterated that in the packing lists to make sure you go prepared and yeah, throat lozenges especially. I found some people, with it up in the air, you're out in the trucks. It did get a bit dry. Maybe not, or it doesn't sound like that bad if you're going at the front end of the year though.
Okay.
Neat. Any other
I
questions?
don't have any other questions. Do you, Bruce?
No,
Okay.